All right, shalom, shalom. I'm going to start off this video by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders, a great millstone that rule well, they teach well, while learning the truth, 100% according to the Bible. Also want to say shalom to the elect, the 144,000 prophets scattered abroad the four corners of the earth. And shalom to you, Akwaf, which are the sisters that are sincere in your children. Shalom. And in today's video is going to basically be building off of this article that was uploaded 2 hours ago that I got from Newsbreak, and this is some very important news, so it says 500 U.S. Marines are prepared to be deployed to L.A. to protect federal personnel amid riots, right? So ultimately, we know all the situations that are occurring right now over there in Los Angeles, California with the so-called, deportation protests and things of that nature. But here it is. You got Trump basically, because he's the one that ultimately has to, ultimately sign off on a lot of these things. You basically got him allowing the military to be shipped to L.A. to, ultimately to protect the people, as they say. But we know, as it says in this precept right here, this is 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. It said, lest Satan, right? Satan meaning our adversary, right? Which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And when you go into that word devices, it goes into his tricks and his schemes and his cunningness, because this man is very crafty, and how he does things. And we know ultimately that this is the whole agenda of these elites, and mainly the people that are running the show behind the scenes, that they ultimately want civil unrest and all of these different types of things to take place in America. So ultimately they can bring forth agenda which they have set for this place. And that's what we ultimately see happening. But, Joe Biden not too long ago, before he even got out of the White House, and I wish I could find it, but, he had made a law into place where the American military can use lethal force against American citizens in case of an uproar or division or, of any type of insurrection that's taking place. And it's crazy that, Donald Trump is allowing these 500 military soldiers to be shipped ultimately to L.A., and that's the first thing the Lord allowed to drop in my spirit was that law that was passed before Joe Biden got out of the office, man. So they could possibly use this situation that's happening in L.A. to, ultimately be the straw that can possibly break the camel's back, man, to ultimately them to bring in what it is that they want to do, which is ultimately their new world order, man, their global world order to shut this place America down, to put military troops in every city and set up checkpoints and all of these different types of things. We know they want this place to be boarded up, man. They don't want people to move around freely. They want all of these things that are going on now to ultimately to change. And they're going to do whatever they got to do to ultimately to bring that into fruition, And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that, right? Because, this man ultimately, that's his goal, to bring, chaos to this place, America, man. That's what they ultimately want to bring, And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that. Bear with me. I'm going to go to... This is a precept I got. This is St. John chapter 10, verse 10, because this is ultimately what Esau Edom is trying to do, man. Every time this man comes around, that's all he really wants to do. That's the whole mindset of this man. He doesn't want peace. He's ultimately going to send the military in there, acting as though he wants to bring peace. He wants to calm down the riots and all of that different type of stuff. But that's all a lie, man, because, it tells you that in Psalms 55 and 21, man, that his words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, but yet were they drawn swords. So this man always has a different motive and agenda and, different type of thing that he's ultimately trying to push forth. Though he comes in a polite manner, talking like he has your best interest, this man's the devil. So he always has a string attached to the things in which it is that he's trying to do. So he wants these race wars and these riots and things of that nature that are happening to keep continuing to happen, man. And not race wars, Salakia. I meant to say, these protests that are becoming, more violent. He wants these things to happen because that gives him justification to ultimately to bring in his martial law that he wants to bring. Mind you, you had Donald Trump maybe about a month ago. He put that on the books. Insurrection Act of 1807, that if there's a uproar or civil upheaval of the people in America, that they can implement martial law. So, I mean, and it's funny that you got this event happening right now in Cali, man. So like I said, everything is ultimately being set up and planned. But this is John chapter 10, verse 10 that I read earlier, KJV. It said, the thief cometh not but to steal, right? And to kill and to destroy, right? And that's ultimately what Esau Edom is coming to do, man. This man is coming to destroy, man. He doesn't want to bring forth peace. That's the narrative that he's going to paint to the people, that, he ultimately wants to, protect you. He wants to, stop these riots and ultimately to take away all of the danger, when he's the one that's ultimately creating the danger. He's the one that's, narrating it. Ultimately the Lord is controlling it. But I mean, on the left hand side, this man is the one that's bringing the chaos, and then trying to act like he's trying to diffuse it when that's really what he wants. So this man is the devil, And I'm going to get this, we're going to finish reading this article that I got. We're just going to continue to read down into it because, I mean, this is important, man. All of this stuff is coming to change this place, America, for the better, man. Because the reason I say the better, because we know ultimately once this hellhole goes down, we will know what's coming next, which is the kingdom of heaven, man. And that's ultimately what we're looking forward towards, us brothers and sisters of the hopeful elect, man. We tired of this damn place, man, and we ready for the Lord to judge this place and for it to go down. So we get excited when we see things like this happening. That mean the Lord is kicking up these prophecies, man. He's allowing things to, ultimately fulfill quicker, because we know the Lord said that in the last days, St. Matthew 24 and 22, that he will speed up time for the elect's sake. Because it's about to get real bad out here, man. So the Lord has to speed up time ultimately, especially when this devil comes down, man, because, he's going to come down with that great wrath, man. It's only a matter of time before he does. But we see everything that he's putting in place is ultimately for him to do those exact things, right? And I'm going to finish reading this article, right, that I got. But I'm going to go down. It said, a United States Marine Corps unit is prepared to go into L.A. on Sunday, right, where violence continues to unfold as protests against ICE turn to destruction of property and physical combat with police in riot gear, despite gatherings being declared unlawful and the LAPD issuing dispersal orders. National Guard troops were deployed, right? So mind you, they already got the National Guard there, which is a form of the military police, right? So they're basically saying that the National Guard couldn't control them. So they're going to, step it up to the next level, which is them implementing the Marine Corps, man, the military. These are people that are trained to, delete, man. These are not people that are trained to deal with, hostile situations like this or to deal with, controlling people. No, they're trained to ultimately to put people down, man. And that's why this man is putting them in place. Because mind you, as I said earlier, Joe Biden already passed a law to where the military, American soldiers can lay these people down, man, American citizens, if they're, being violent and, disrupting the peace, allegedly, that they can, use lethal force against them. So it's just funny that all of this stuff is happening, man, but it's all the Lord's will at the end of the day. The Lord is the one that's ultimately bringing forth these things that we see occurring, And it said National Guard troops were deployed to the city on Sunday under the direction of President Donald Trump, right? And Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth against the objections of the government, Gavin Newsom, right, or the governor, who blames the president for the violent unrest rather than those committing such acts, right? On Sunday evening, the U.S. Northern Command issued a statement announcing 500 active duty United States Marines have been placed on a ready to deploy status, potentially to provide armed protection, right, for federal property and personnel within LA. So if they're saying armed protection, what you think that means, right? That's talking about if any of these so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians or whoever's at those protests, gets violent or does anything that is, against what they feel is necessary or do what they feel is wrong in their eyes, they're going to put them down, man. These are the times that we're coming into. The Lord says that in Isaiah 19:2, and I'm going to go to that. in the KJV, and it says, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, man. That's talking about these people here in Babylon, the Great America, man. These modern day Egyptians, because this place is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt, right? And it said, and they shall fight everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom, man. You know. And I'm gonna go to 2nd Esdras 15, because this is the time that we see approaching this place, America, man, Babylon the Great, you know. And I'm gonna start at verse. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start at verse 1 and just read all the way down through the Spirit. It says, behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord, right? And that's what the men of the Lord are doing, starting off with the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and the men that are teaching the same doctrine 100% according to the Bible. That's what we're doing to you so-called Israelites, man. You know, we're warning you of the events that are going to take place. We're warning you at the time of Jacob's trouble. We're warning you at the times of, you know, the MOTBC being made mandatory. We're warning you of this devil getting ready to come down with great wrath. These are all part of the prophecies, man. And we're making it plain unto you Israelites, man, to you know that these things are going to take place, right? And it says, verse 2, and cause them to be, they are faithful and true. And that's according to the prophecies, man, because we see all of these prophecies jumping off of them. Man. So they're definitely, you know, in which it is that is written in these scriptures that the men of the Lord is speaking, you know, his prophets, his servants, they're going to take place, man, because they're faithful and true. As he tells you in this precept that I'm going to go to, this is Isaiah, right? Chapter 55, you know, and I'm going to start at verse 11, just proving, you know, how faithful and true these words really are, man, that everything in which it is that the Lord has spoken through his servants, these prophecies will happen, you know, as it says in Habakkuk 2 and 3, for the vision, meaning the prophecies, is yet for an appointed time, but it wait for it because it will surely come, it will not tarry. So these are going to, and those things that I mentioned earlier are all part of prophecy. Nation against nation, race wars, civil unrest in America, Babylon the Great, all of those things are a part of the prophecies, man. Right? So it says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it, right? So all of these prophecies are going to take place, man, right? No matter if people don't believe it, no matter if you people come up against this truth, scoffing, doing all of the different types of things that it is you do, because we got a lot of people like that that are arising out of the woodworks. You know, scoffers and people coming up against his word, thinking that Jacob's trouble won't happen and all of these different types of things, right? And that goes into this verse right here that I got. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 3. Fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity, right, meaning the unbelief, right, of the 2/3 of our people and these other heathens, of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Because that's what they do. You know, they're coming up against this word of the Lord. You know, that's why you got so many people making TikTok videos and doing all type of different things of ultimately, you know, them trying to come against the Hebrew Israelites. That's all these people being incredulity, man, or having incredulity, I should say, you know, being unbelievers, being scoffers. And that's the lot that the Lord have ultimately gave those people, you know, to come up against this truth and to not think is real and things of that nature. That's because the Lord have blinded these people's eyes that they cannot see the truth. Right. Though we're living in a time of prophecy, though you're seeing all of these things happening in America, Babylon the Great, and people are still not believing that we're at the end of this place. It's crazy. Right. But this is Romans chapter 3, verse 3. It said, for what if some did not believe, shall their unbelief make the faith of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua without effect? Verse 4. Yahweh forbid, yea, let the Most High be true, but every man a liar, as it is written, that thou mightest be justified in thy sins and mightest overcome when thou art judged. Right. And we know ultimately that's going into what I'm going to read right here in verse 4. Because for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, right? So everybody of our people that don't believe, that come up against his word, that ultimately don't think that there's going to be a time of great tribulation and Jacob's trouble is not real. We already passed through it and all of the different type of things that it is you got Jake ultimately speaking about. They're going to ultimately perish, man. The Lord is going to bring forth a lot of judgment upon these 2/3, man, and these other heathens, you know, for their unbelief, for their incredulity, right? This is verse 5. It said, behold, saith the Lord, I will bring plagues upon the world, right? And we already see those plagues happening in this place, America. That's why you see the inflation high. That's why you see all of these jobs, people being laid off left and right, not knowing what to do, people going crazy, bugging out, losing their minds, all of these different types of things. Those are all part of the plagues, right? All of these women losing their jobs and businesses, food stamps being taken away from people, their WIC, their Section 8. All of those are the plagues, man. Because it tells you in Proverbs 21:1, the king's heart, meaning his mind, is in the hands of the Lord. As the rivers of water, he turneth it whithersoever he will, man. So everything that these elites and these people, Trump and all of these other guys are ultimately putting into place, man, is all being controlled by the Lord. Because it's his will that these people are doing, man. So I'm going to go to verse 5. It says, the sword, right? These are all of the things that's soon about to come upon this place, America, man. Right? The sword, which represents violence, destruction, people being at odds, at variance, chaos. That's what that sword is, man. Division, going into what I read earlier, the race wars, Isaiah 19:2. That's what's coming, man. Right? And it says famine, death, and destruction, man. That's what Yahweh Shem Yahushua is bringing. And this is verse 6. And this is the reason why the Lord is bringing these evils. For wickedness, right? Sin upon sin, iniquity, transgressing of the law, statutes, and commandments of the scriptures, right? Which is what our people love to do. Mainly you 2/3 of the nation of Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. You people don't like to, follow after the ways of the Lord. You people love walking in the ways of darkness, right? So that's why these judgments are getting ready to be brought forth from the Lord, man. Right? And it says, for wickedness have exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are filled, right? Therefore saith the Lord, verse 8, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, especially in this place, America, Babylon the Great, man. Everybody in this country love being demons. They praise that type of lifestyle over here. The women love being boss bees and, whores and all type of other different types of things. The men love being YNs and gangsters and all these other different types of things. They call themselves tough guys. So we just live in a society that loves and praise wickedness, man. So you think the Lord ain't finna get ready to take this place out, man? Right? It says, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually, man. Right? That's talking about the Lord's elect, man. Lord's where we be at that number. We're sighing and crying every day for the abominations being done in the midst thereof, man. Being vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked, ultimately having to deal with, everything in this society being upside down, the women being in power and the men being on the bottom. Everything in this society is just wicked, man. It's against the Heavenly Father and His Son. So that's why we're crying for this place to be destroyed, man. Right? This is verse 9, and it said, and therefore saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. So Yahweh Shem Yahushua is going to avenge his elect, man. And he's going to do that by judging these wicked people, man, and ultimately delivering his elect from these said perils that are going to befall this place, America, Babylon the Great, man. Right? And I'm gonna go to verse 10. It said, behold, my people is led as flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. Right? Verse 11. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before. Right? This is not talking about modern Egypt. Ancient Egypt, Salakia. This is talking about modern day Egypt, which is this place, America, Babylon. And it says, and will destroy all the land thereof. And we know ultimately that's going to be the will to destroy this whole entire American landmass, right? During the third with those ICBM missiles, man, and the laser beams of the chariots. That's ultimately what's going to make this place desolate, right? As it said. And it said, verse 12, Egypt shall mourn, right? Egypt talking about you modern day Americans, man. You people are going to mourn, right? And the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it, man, because the Lord is getting ready to judge this place, man. And we're already seeing the beginning signs of it with everything that's plaguing this place, man. The tariffs that are coming upon this place, the prices of food going up, all of these job layoffs and people not being able to, ultimately afford groceries and, things of that nature that's ultimately just coming upon this place, man. Calamities after calamities after calamities, the stock market crashing, the dollar getting weaker. This place, America, is done, man. Right? That's why you Americans are going to be mourning, you modern day, man. You people You people gonna man, because you people have all your mind, soul, spirit, and everything that it is of importance invested in this place. You think this place is gonna be around forever, but you don't know that this place is destined by prophecy to be destroyed, man. That's what you people don't understand, right? I see it. This is verse 13. It said, "They that till the ground mourn, right, for their shall fail in hell, and with the fearful consolation, man, right." So all of you people that are working and trying to get by in this place, America, and all of those different types of things, it's gonna all fail, man, because this place is going down, right? As it tells you in Proverbs 11 and 4, how riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness deliver from death. So if you're not of the Lord's elect, man, you're not going to be safe in these times that's coming. No matter how much money you got, no matter who you think you are in this society, no matter if you know, how you exalt yourself, how proud you are, how you think you're just this, that, and the third, because a lot of these people, they're proud in this society. And that's going to be another reason why the Lord is going to get ready to bring all of those plagues, man, So I'm going to get back into this article so we can, ultimately, finish reading it, because I want to get a few more key points in that article. We might just read the whole thing, Lord's will. It's not too long. But, yeah, we're going to get back into it. And I'm going to start up there. It said on Sunday evening, the U.S. Northern Command issued a statement announcing 500 active duty United States Marines have been placed on a ready to deploy status, potentially to provide armed protection for federal property and personnel within L.A. In a press release shared on social media, U.S. Northcom issued a statement on the protection of federal property and personnel in the Los Angeles area, which outlined both the National Guard deployment and additional measures, including the potential involvement of the active duty military. The statement announced approximately 500 Marines from 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines, at 29 Palms, California, are in a prepared to deploy status should they be necessary to augment and support the DoD's protection of federal prosperity and the ports, right? And there it is. You basically see them out there getting ready, man. So this is the time and season that it is we're living in, brothers and sisters. We're living in a time of, violence like never before that's about to fall upon this place, America, man. Yahweh Shem Yahushua is getting ready to judge this place, man. And we can't wait. And, us hopeful brothers, elect brothers and sisters, or the hopeful elect, I should say, Salakia. We're ready for this damn place to go down, man. So every time we see something like this happening, we're seeing the violence. We're seeing the people get more tense. We're seeing the people become more angry and upset with this system. We know that we're getting closer to this place going down. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein. That word woe means destruction, because that's what the Lord is getting ready to bring, man. Right? Verse 15, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Hence what you see going on over there now in L.A., California, man. You see all of those Jakes out there, the Northern Kingdom, coming up against the ICE and the other National Guards and things of that nature. That's only a small scale of what is about to happen, because we know that those race wars will happen, man. They will take place, man. That's all a part of prophecy, so they're going to happen, And it says, verse 16, this is what you see going on now. But like I said, this is going to be on a higher scale in this place. Everything that we're seeing now is only the tip of the iceberg, As it tells you in St. Matthew 24:8, all these are the beginning of sorrows, man. These are the beginning of greater evils that the Lord is going to allow to unleash upon this place, right? So it says, for there should be sedition among men. And when you go into that word sedition, it basically goes into people, ultimately, uprising or being rebellious towards the government. And that's what you see happening right now, man. You see the Northern Kingdom over there in Cali, man. They're not listening to the military, man. They're not even listening to the National Guard. So we know that's form of a sedition right there taking place. But we know that, like I said, it's going to get worse. These are only the beginnings of the evils that are going to come upon this place, America, man. It's going to get way worse. And it says, and invading one another, they shall not regard their kings nor princes, right? They won't regard the police. They won't regard Donald Trump. They won't regard any of these people that you feel like is in power, man. The people in the time of chaos are not going to be taking heed to none of these leaders, man. right? It's going to be every man and woman for themselves, man, right? And it said, in the course of their actions shall stand in their power, right? Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, right? That's going to be due to them locking everything down with their military, man, bringing in martial law, right? Which is what you see them doing on a small scale now. But like I said, everything is going to continue to grow. These things are not going to just happen in a few states or few cities, man. This stuff is going to be happening in every city, state, and country, mainly in America. You know what I meant to say? So every state and city, I should say, you know. And it says, verse 18, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, right? Pride goeth before destruction and the haughty spirit before a fall. And these people here in America, Babylon the Great, are proud as hell, man. Especially these women, you know, and these 2/3 men, you know, and these other heathens, the Edomites, all of these people in this country, their whole persona is just built off pride. You know, thinking they're better than the next person because they may got a car or a house, or they might have this and have that. So they base their value off of materials in this place, man. Everybody is, you know, boastful and proud and, oh, I got this, you don't have that. Like, that's the mentality of these people in America, man. Right? So it says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. But the Lord said in 2 Ezra chapter 8, verse 50, for many great miseries, right? And I'm going to look into that word miseries for edification's sake, you know, because this is what the Lord bringing upon these people, man. You know, and we can't wait, you know, miseries, man. Lord is going to plague these people from all sides, you know. That word misery goes into a state or feeling of great distress or discomfort of mind and or body. And when you go into similar words of it, it goes into people being unhappy, right? People ultimately being afflicted, people suffering. And that's what the Lord is about to bring upon these people, man. You know, a lot of suffering, man. You know, and these people deserve it, man. Right. So as I was saying again, you know, 2 Ezra 8 and 50, for many great miseries shall be done unto them that in the latter time shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride, man. So that pride is going to be what's going to bring a lot of these people low in these times we're about to come into, man. Right. And I'm going to go to a precept just touching on that as well. This is Proverbs chapter 11, verse 2. Right. And I'm going to read it in NIV, right? It said, when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. But in the KJV, it says, when pride cometh, then cometh shame, right? And I'm going to look at that word shame for edification's sake, because that's what the Lord is about to bring these Americans to, man, a state of shame, man. Pitiful case, man, is what these people are about to be in the near future, right? When everything in this country really turns up, man. The way the Lord allows it to. These people are going to be, you know, in a pitiful case. You know, that word shame goes into a painful feeling of humiliation or distress caused by the consciousness of wrong or foolish behavior, right? Because soon to come, like I said, when all hell breaks loose and these people realize, mainly you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, you 2/3, once you realize that the Lord is ultimately judging this place and that the men of the Lord have warned you of all these things, then you people are going to be in a shameful state of mind. You people are going to be ashamed knowing you didn't listen to the men of the Lord, man. Knowing that you, you know, didn't take heed to these warnings when they was going forth, man. When all hell begins to break loose, right? And I'm going to go to that precept. This is Ezekiel chapter 33, right? And I'm going to read verse 33 in the KJV, because this is what everybody's going to realize when all of this hell begins to break loose. That's why it tells you, you know, they're going to be trying to look for the men of the Lord, but they won't be able to find them, you know, roughly paraphrasing, because they're not looking for this word now while things are still somewhat normal out there. They're going to wait till all hell breaks loose in this place, America. Then that's when everybody going to be looking for the so-called men of the Lord. But it's going to be too late for you people, man. Right. So it says, and when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come, right? Meaning the prophecies. Then shall they know that a prophet have been among them. So like I said, when all hell begins to break loose in this place, America, and people begin to start seeing these actual events that the men of the Lord have warned them about actually taking place in their faces, then they're going to know that a prophet was speaking unto them, man. But like I said, these people in this country are proud, so they don't see it now. But, you know, it's about to come. But that's pretty much everything I had to say with today's video. Lord's willing, I pray it be edifying. With that being said, we're gonna end it off by giving all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakak. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. To the next time, I'm gonna say Shalom.